Greetings, YouTube. Airborne 80 here. You know, I've been watching, just addicted. I go through these things on YouTube where I get into a certain subject, whether it's police interrogations or, you know, serial killers or, you know, how-to videos. And I don't know, for the past couple of weeks, I've been just locked into a lot of this whole S.E.A.L phenomenon going on all over YouTube. And for those that don't know, there's just this whole epidemic of, you know, this has been going on for years, where Navy SEALs are kind of turning on each other. You know, everybody's got a podcast, not just the SEALs, but a lot of the Special Forces types have, you know, they're writing books and they have podcasts, and, you know, I've got nothing against that at all, for the most part. You know, you see all the movies, and everybody knows who Chris Kyle was, and Marcus Luttrell from Lone Survivor. You know, look, I'm 62 years old. I was never a special operator dude. I was your run-of-the-mill field radio operator at Fort Bragg. I was in the 18th Airborne Corps. I went in the Army and jump school in 1980. And then I did the rest of my career in law enforcement, LAPD, and then 12 years as a Fed in DC. So nothing really, no military excitement, you know, beyond the fun that I had doing the shit that we did, which was basically just preparing for the Cold War to turn hot, which it never did. But, you know, things were so much different back in back in the 80s, you know, in terms of the SEALs and Delta, SF. SEALs were just a rumor, man. To most of us, you know, we knew about the SEALs, and that's about it, you know. Nobody ever really met one, and there was a really cool mystique that surrounded the whole SEAL idea, you know, because, you know, we were young back then. I was 18 years old, and to us, it was like, man, you know, the fucking Navy is the weakest, or the Air Force is the weakest, the Navy is a little bit stronger. The fucking Marines are dumb, and you know, the fucking Army is the best. You know, all of the branches just ragged on each other, and that's just the way it always was. And it was harmless fun. You know, our team's better than your team, kind of thing. But even at Fort Bragg, which was my favorite assignment, my favorite duty assignment, was being stationed at Fort Bragg, because that was like the real Army. You know, it was, you felt like that was the real deal. And of course, we're sitting there right next to Special Forces. We worked with Special Forces in training capacity. Part of their Q course at the end of it is they go through this exercise. I think it's called Robin Sage now. It might have been called that back then. But some of the funnest times I had was I got selected to be one of the indigenous people in this fictitious country where the, you know, the SF was parachuting in and spent, you know, a week or 2 weeks or whatever it was training us out there in the Uwharrie National Forest, and we had to kind of play dumb, like we were the guerrillas that they were teaching. And so we learned an awful lot from those guys, because that's what they did. Their whole mission, the Special Forces, was to come in and train up guerrillas, and we were the guerrillas. So what a great experience. Some funny stories about that shit too, I'll tell someday. But yeah, you know, you had Delta Force, and, you know, you might see a couple of them, and they looked different, man, because nowadays you see everybody, cops, everybody's got beards and facial hair and tattoos. That was unheard of back then. But Delta Force guys back then, man, that you'd see them out there, they'd have long hair, but they did not look like they were in the military at all. And they were just a big fucking mystery, man, to us young guys. We were just like, man, these guys are the fucking baddest of the bad, man. We'll never know what the fuck they do. And so it was kind of cool, man, that there were these mysterious units that you knew were the good guys, and you knew they were highly trained and highly capable, and you just thought, man, these are the true heroes of the military. So now here I am, I'm 62, and, you know, I'm watching podcasts and watching the movies, and, you know, when I saw Lone Survivor, you know, I bought the book, and fucking tears rolling down my cheeks. You know, I get soft as you get older. Some of us get soft. I mean, I cry at a fucking commercial now. And I was just like, wow, man, fucking Marcus Luttrell. You know, I wouldn't I wouldn't be worthy of even being in the same room with a guy like that. And then time goes on, same with Chris Kyle. You know, you're like, my God, fucking, where do we get these heroes? But then the veneer comes off and stories start to be told, and now there's this entire thing where reality's coming out. Roberts Ridge. If you don't know what I'm talking about, look this stuff up. And it's clear that we've been lied to. You know, some of the people that I wasted a lot of time and energy on thinking were absolute fucking heroes, turned out there was a whole different story going on there. You know, if you still believe everything that you think or that you saw or read or heard about in the movie Lone Survivor or the book or watching Marcus talk, and I look at Marcus and I think, man, he's a nice guy, man, and I think he kind of got caught up in this. He was a young dude without any experience, but I've learned an awful lot about that incident, and I feel like a fucking idiot that I actually dropped tears over shit like that. I still do, because of the guys that were lost on Operation Red Wings, and I think of Danny Dietz and all of the guys that were fucking lost on that mission. What a clusterfuck. But the fact that we were fed a bunch of bullshit, it stings, man, because what you think happened is not what happened. And that's all been proven. But now we have guys like, I've learned about this dude, Jocko. Just look him up on YouTube. And he looks like a fucking dude, man. Like, you know, that's why I carry a gun every day. I wouldn't want to run into this motherfucker in a bad mood in a dark alley. He's just like a big fucking, dude who I guess was a SEAL team commander. I'm not sure. I'm not sure what his position was, but he was out there working in Ramadi with Chris Kyle, and the accusations that are coming out about fucking murdering people, shooting innocent people just to get body counts, and these are other special operators that are coming on to podcasts, and there's fucking, and I don't know if the shit's true or not, but it just made me turn on the fucking iPad and think, just kind of air some of my thoughts about this shit. Now you hear these kind of jokes, like, you'll know you're talking to a SEAL within a few seconds, because if he doesn't mention he was a SEAL in the first 30 seconds, he wasn't a SEAL. Every SEAL has a fucking product. Every SEAL has a fucking book. Every SEAL has a podcast. And at first that kind of rubbed me the wrong way, but I started giving it some thought. And I thought, you know what? We live in a different world, man. I mean, if we had YouTube and iPads and cell phone cameras and shit, and we could just talk to the world instantly, back in the 80s, this stuff probably would have happened then too. And I don't fault people for using their life experience to make money. I mean, that's the name of the game. But that being said, there's a part of me that really wishes things were the way they were when special operators and SEALs, and they were known as the quiet or the silent professionals, because they didn't tell everybody what they did. They went out and they did heroic shit, and then they went and retired, and nobody ever fucking knew what they did. Yeah, that might be kind of hard to do now in this day of absolute instant communications, but it hasn't done the special forces any favors. And I use the term special forces. Now, when I was a young soldier, special forces, in my mind, referred to only the Green Berets. That was special forces. But now I understand special forces encompasses all special operators. So who the fuck knows? I don't know, man. I'm just an old dude. But I think our military was a lot more effective when everybody on the globe, including our enemies, was not able to fucking sit and listen to fucking tactics that are used, listen to stories. And anybody with half of a brain cell operating can listen to some of these detailed descriptions of operations on these YouTube channels and extrapolate tactics that were used, and the methodology of putting these missions together. It's just dangerous. I don't think it's good, man. I just don't think it's good. And now we have this other thing where the whole community is being tarnished because, it turns out every fucking third SEAL was a freaking homicidal maniac. And, look, my daughter, one of my daughters married a Navy SEAL, and he was legitimately, like, I mean, she was dating him. He went through Annapolis and graduated Annapolis at the top of his class. He graduated #1 in buds. I mean, if I remember correctly, they presented him with an M4 that had some, I don't know if everybody signed it or what. This dude was he was a good dude, and he was just a super overachiever. And that marriage did not last, so he is my ex-son-in-law. But why did I bring that up? Oh, I mean, I remember when he asked me for permission to marry my daughter, I was just like, holy fuck, man, a Navy SEAL, asking what more could a father want, So my regard for the SEALs, and of course, my pride and respect for people in the military has broadened as I've gotten older. I have a lot of pride and respect for the fucking cook in the mess hall. Back in the day, man, if you weren't airborne, you weren't shit. If you didn't have jump wings, you weren't worth fucking pissing on in a forest fire just to cool you down. But that's how young people think. That's how we were. Now the military is much more woke, and I don't even think you can fucking cuss at anybody anymore. Who knows? Who cares? It's not my world, man. I'm a spectator now, but I wouldn't have survived. With this personality, I wouldn't have survived, man. I couldn't be a cop with today's world in terms of law enforcement and how you gotta just suck shit up and take it. There's just no way, man. I mean, the shit you see on YouTube with all these assholes running up and motherfucking the police and trying to bait him into shit, man, it would have been a fucking medevac, and then I'd be in prison if I was wearing a badge today. So, I'm glad that I was alive when I was alive, when, facts mattered a lot more than feelings, and there was only 2 genders that we were aware of. But yeah, I don't really have a fucking point. I'm just kind of sharing with you this experience of, watching this. And look, man, if somebody's a fucking murderer, look, I've been in law enforcement my whole fucking life, adult life. If somebody's a murderer, fucking A, man, they're a piece of shit. When you get into a combat environment, I've never been in combat. I've been in shootings as a cop, but I have not been in like a kinetic fucking firefight, with heavy weapons. I mean, you got to give people some elbow room. You send motherfuckers into a country to kill people, and when they kill people, don't act surprised that they fucking killed people. But that's a lot different than we hear, you can check this shit out. We got allegations of fucking SEALs reporting on other fucking SEALs because they stole something or they were into some shit, and then the fucking dude ends up in a suspicious suicide or suspicious death, and there's evidence coming out that maybe there was a murder that went down. That's fucked up, man. If that's true, that should be investigated. And worse than that, you have blatant cover-ups and lies from upper echelon, high command, all the way up to, as far as I'm concerned, I believe, up to the Pentagon level, where like SOCOM and people, high-ranking motherfuckers covering up what happened on Roberts Ridge. People getting credit for dead people's actions, getting fucking congressional medals of honor, fucking leaving motherfuckers behind, man, to fucking die. And I get it. There's the fog of war. There's shit happening. Look, I've been through some fucking shit, man, and I have experienced the fucking slide of my weapon coming back in slow motion as the shell kicks out and the sound is, I get it. I understand what adrenaline is when you're fighting for your fucking life. And so I don't nitpick people's actions when they're fighting for their life. But when it comes to blatant premeditated crimes, or, I'm going to go out and fucking shoot motherfuckers just because I need a high body count, so anybody I see is going to fucking die, I'm not good with it, man. I'm not good with it. But then again, I was never downrange either. So, this is just one dude's opinion. I'll continue to watch this stuff. It's like when I watch people talking shit about this dude Jocko, I think, man, what a piece of shit. This guy's a fucking idiot. I just spent 2 hours watching Jocko talk. I went to his fucking site, and now I'm all confused and shit. I'm like, what the fuck? Were those guys lying? This guy makes a good point. Look, Jocko doesn't seem like the kind of dude that I'd want to fucking hang out with, because he's probably a little hot-headed, and so am I, and because he's fucking physically tougher than me, probably only one of us would lead that argument, and I don't think it would be me. But that being said, when you listen to this one, that one's fucked up. When you listen to this one, that one's fucked up. So at some point, you either just gotta stop listening to it or draw a conclusion. I don't think there's enough on these things to draw conclusions on, with the exception of things like some of the actions of Luttrell, and I still have a hard time saying it, but Chris Kyle. I mean, things were not the way they were portrayed in that movie. And, it sounds like the public's being sold a bill of goods with the full complicit, and actually with the knowledge and encouragement of upper command. And look, we have to get this shit under control. I say this all the time, man. I look at the cop stuff today, and I'm like, what the fuck? Not all cops. I'm good friends with active duty young cops. But the number of cops I see, man, with fucking tattoos on their necks and fucking beards and fucking not willing to do anything proactive, which you can't blame them. I mean, I wouldn't be proactive if I was a cop today. He'd end up in prison. But some of the attitudes, they went into police work because they wanted the Delta dental program, or they wanted to pay off student loans, or whatever the fuck. It wasn't the same reason that guys in my era went into police work. Back in those days, I graduated at LAPD Academy in '84, and man, if you were military, that gave you extra points, and they wanted guys coming out of the military because the police department was quasi-military, is what they say. Now it's almost like a strike against you, man. You're too fucking unpredictable. You might actually want to be proactive, and that's dangerous, because we don't want proactive cops anymore. You can't talk fucking English. You can't speak. And what I mean by that is you can't speak words that are in the dictionary, because they may hurt somebody's fucking feelings. We got to pretend that this dude is that girl, and I couldn't handle it, man. But I also have, and it's the same with the FBI. Look at the FBI, look at all these agencies that I used to just worship, and I look at all the shit they're doing, man, getting into politics. I mean, as part of their agency mission, they're pushing a political agenda, which was unheard of in my day. And I have to remind myself, it's not the same world, Mike. The people that were recruited into the military in 1980 are not the same caliber of people that they're recruiting into the military today. Just look at the fucking commercials, the recruiting commercials. The cops that trained me, my training officers, for the most part, many were Vietnam veterans, combat veterans that were legitimate combat veterans that got out, became cops, and now they're teaching us. And so there was a real nexus between law enforcement and the military, and it felt it was an easy transition, because no matter whether you're a combat vet or not, transitioning from military life to civilian life is a motherfucker. It's just your identity. So transitioning back then from military to law enforcement was as smooth as butter, because it was the same thing. You had inspections, you had qualifications, you had to look sharp, you had to show respect when you were talking to seniors. The things we did then are considered hazing now. You can't do it in LAPD, which is fucking mind-boggling. Back in my day, when you were on probation, you couldn't have a mustache until you were off probation. You could have no facial hair. You could not wear boots until you were off probation. You could not wear short sleeves until you were off probation. And if you were fucking working, day watch in Los Angeles, and it was 102 degrees out, you're wearing long sleeves and a fucking tie. Everybody there, all the cops knew you were a fucking probationer, and all of the bad guys knew you were a probationer, and they treated you accordingly. Because, all of us couldn't wait till the day that we were off probation. We could throw some boots on instead of low quarters or, dress shoes, and get rid of these fucking long sleeve shirts and ties, and fucking grow that fucking porno mustache so we'd all look like fucking, seasoned cops. But, you couldn't sit anywhere but in the front row at roll call. You know, the further back in LAPD roll calls in those days, the more time people had on. So the loudmouth guys that didn't give a fuck were in the very back, you know, motherfucking the lieutenant and interrupting roll call, and everybody put up with it because these were the gunfighters, the gunslingers. They'd earned their right to be assholes in roll call. And as the years went on, you started to slowly fade back. There was a, you know, that all is gone, dude. I mean, you can, you know, that's considered fucking like some sort of abuse now if you have any kind of tradition. Which, you know, it's the same with our whole country. There is no tradition anymore because tradition is considered bad in the eyes of the socialist. You know, the fuckers with the agenda to dismantle this fucking country and every entity within it. So coming full circle, why am I surprised that our own fucking special forces and elite military units aren't getting fucking affected by this whole woke fucking world nightmare that we're experiencing? You know, I mean, I read a comment somewhere where listening to fucking, you know, was like, if you basically SEALs nowadays, it's like watching The View if you get a bunch of them on a podcast. You know, that was funny. It made me laugh. But it's laughter based on sadness. I mean, God dang it. I just remember the days where, man, you just wondered what missions these guys did. You wondered what they were all about. You didn't know all of their training. You just knew that it was fucking hard. Not many could survive it. And here we are. Anyways, I just thought I'd throw that out, man. If you're totally lost as to why I'm even talking about this, just go check out, just do a search on YouTube on you know, fucking the truth behind Chris Kyle, or what really happened, you know, with the lone survivor, Operation Red Wings, murder in the SEAL community. But be prepared to be depressed if you're a fucking guy that's patriotic like me and who loves the military. And, you know, I bow down to any person that's willing to put on the uniform, even though I know nowadays that the young person, 99.10% of the time, doesn't have the same fucking mindset that I had when I fucking slid into my fucking khakis every day. You know, we're just different times, man. And, you know, maybe every older generation has a hard time because you can't help but compare the way things are to the way things were. And when you're young, you don't have much to compare it to. So maybe when these young SEALs are old men, they'll be in a worse position and they'll look back and go, man, I miss the days when we could accuse each other of murder and sit around and rat fuck each other on YouTube, man. Those were the days. Anyways, stay safe, and Airborne 80, I'm out.